Hello, 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 welcome to Ikate's Crossing. I know I haven't been online much lately. I've been a little bit on TikTok. I've just started posting again across the board. I really need to start getting back into doing some videos and things like that. I've done it over the winter months. I was sort of dealing with some stuff, illness and stuff like that, so I just needed to self-care. But let's have a look and see what message the Outlander Oracle have. Okay, so let me just grab what's the first card here we're looking at here. Okay, the first card we're looking at here is Arbiter. Okay, straight away the scales there are telling me about balance, but let's have a look and see what could be about the truth of the situation. Maybe you're arbitrating, you're sort of trying to mediate with people. Maybe you're trying to sort of come to some sort of agreement on some way, sorting out some sort of contract. You're looking at sort of agreement, contract. Let's have a look and see what it says in the book. Okay, just take me a second. So it just gives you a little bit of an idea of my thoughts when I'm thinking of an arbiter, someone who sort of is mediating the situation. You're looking at things that are legalities. But let's have a look here. Justice, a reckoning. Okay, so in the book here it's got Colin Mackenzie with reckoning, justice and accountability. A shrewd authority, Laird Colin Mackenzie makes swift and definite judgments. His word is harsh but final. So maybe it's time to make some sort of final decision. Maybe you're dealing with a sense of legalities in some way. Maybe there's a reckoning to something going on. Maybe it's time for you to be accountable for your ability. So let's have a look and see if we can get a little bit more information here. So we're looking at this here, and we want a little bit more information in regards to the justice, or the sense of trying to find an agreement, a final word. Okay, so we've got here industry. Okay, so it could be in relation to an industry. It could be a work situation. Interesting, is that's what I'm getting here. I'm getting a sense of a work situation. Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about this work situation that's kneeling to have some sort of, maybe there's a disagreement in regards to working with another colleague or something like that, and so there needs to be some sort of mediation, some sort of sorting out, maybe a compromise in some way. Whoops, that was me being clumsy. Too many cards to come out there. So let's have a look here. So we know it's a work situation. Woo! That flew out. So let's have a look and see what we got. Okay. Ooh, someone's not being quite completely honest with the situation. Okay, so we've got this work situation that needs a mediator. Needs to have some sort of sorting out in some way. Someone needs to sort of come in and sort things out. I do feel like maybe you're dealing with something that's quite tricky. You've got someone who's not being quite honest. Whoa! With the situation. Okay, so what have we got here? A sage. Okay, so you need to be wise in your decisions. Interesting. Okay, so you need to sort of come up with something that's going to work out for everybody in the situation, but someone is not being completely honest, and so you might need to ask for some advice from someone. So maybe you're being asked to mediate with someone, but you actually need to ask someone else for advice on the situation. Kind of interesting. Yay. So let's see. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the Mindscapes Tarot and just see if there's any other information that could help us during this mediating. Okay, so what do we need to know about this situation? Okay, this mediating. What else do we need to know? Okay, so we need to ask for some help. We know someone's not being completely honest. We know it's work related in some way. Okay, so somebody at work who's not being completely honest, you might need to ask for some advice in regard to the situation, because it needs to be mediated, it needs to be sorted out, it needs to be a conclusion needs to be sorted. Okay, so let's have a look here. Just shuffling the Mindscapes Tarot. So let's have a look. Let me choose some cards here. Okay, so we've got 5 of Spires. Okay, 5 of Spires is like 5 of Swords. So this is about working out where you need to maybe step back a little bit from the situation. Maybe there's a situation you need to put your thought into. There's a bit of a fight and flight response here, so you need to find some sort of understanding of what aspects do you actually need to say something and other aspects that you might need to sort of step back a little bit from. So that's something to think about in this situation. You might need to think about, okay, so what do I need to actually speak about and what do I actually need to walk away, stay silent on. Okay, so that's kind of interesting there. So what else do we need to know in this situation? Okay, so we've got 6 of Branches. Okay, we feel like everything's going to be successful. There will be some challenges, but it will be successful. It will be a victory. It will be a sort of a sense of, I do feel like there will be some wins in the situation. There will be some victories, some successes, but there's going to be a lot of battles. So it's going to work out okay. I feel like it's going to be okay. Is there anything else that you need to know about this situation? Okay, Judgment. Okay, Judgment can be about resurrection, can also be, okay, there's moments when judgment is needed. Okay, judgment is needed. Maybe you need to act with a little bit of discernment in other areas. This is kind of interesting reading. Okay, is there anything else? Oops, here we go. Okay, we got the Devil, which is kind of interesting here. The Devil tells us to be careful about what we're being chained to or addicted to. Repeated patterns, but maybe this is a repeated pattern or a bad habit in regards to this person. So that might be something that you might need to take into account. Is this a repeated pattern, a bad habit, something that keeps happening? Is this an addiction in some way for this person? So you might need to take that into account when you're when you're making that sort of decision. When you're an arbitrator. When you're making that decision, when you're being judged. Okay, so it's kind of interesting. So that's why I think you might need to act with discernment on some level in what they're saying. You might need to be very careful about what they're saying and just know that this could be a repeated pattern, and so you might need to take that into consideration. Is this something that continually happens all the time? Is this their sort of, have they had other warnings or other discussions about it? Interesting. Okay, so let's have a look. Another card here. Okay, Ace of Stones. So we need to look at the potential. Now, is this potential positive or negative? Okay, if they are continually repeating this pattern, if they're going to do this again. Okay, so if they're going to keep repeating the cycle, what's going on? If they're going to keep resurrecting this this addiction or repeated patterns, bad habits, is this something that, so there's a lot of things that might need to be taken into consideration before you make your final decision. Important to ask for some help if you're unsure about something. Maybe you need to ask for more information about the situation. Maybe you need to find out whether this is a repeated pattern or something, you know, could this potentially be a negative impact on the work environment. These are things that you might need to think about. You know, the potential, you know, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a positive potential. It could be, with having the Devil card here, is the potential to repeat itself. You know, something to think about. Okay, one last card, I think. One last card here. Give us one last card. What? Give us one last piece of advice in regards to this situation. Okay, one last piece of advice. Ooh, 5 of branches. Okay, this tells me is you've got to acknowledge the conflict. That's the last thing you need to do. You need to acknowledge the conflicts, the challenges to this situation, to what's been happening and what could happen. I think it's really important to acknowledge the conflicts and whether they can be sorted out or not, or whether this is going to build into something larger. So there's a lot of things to think about there in regards to this something that's happening at work, a work situation, that you've got someone who's being deceitful, not being completely honest about something. So yeah, I just feel like there's somebody hiding behind a mask. Might not be what you're, you know, they might say something, but their actions actually speak louder than their words. Especially if it's a repeated pattern, or something they keep doing. Maybe it's something they keep resurrecting, something that keeps coming up all the time. And now it's time for you to sort of act with a little bit of discernment. Don't get too wound up in their sob story. That just came out. Okay, I just got, don't get too wound up in their sob story. And that came up with this one, with the Judgment card. Okay, and I do feel like it could be a potential to repeat. Okay, it could be a repeated addiction. For them, it's a benefit in some way. I don't think it's a good benefit. Like, it feels like it could be a good benefit for them, but of course it's not going to be a good benefit for the business. Okay, so there's a lot of things to think about there. Okay, so that's it from me. That was with the Outlander Oracle and the Mindscapes Tarot. Take care and blessed be. And don't forget to check out Ko-Fi if you want to book a reading with me.